And good morning to everybody out there. We're so excited to have you join us. This has been a really fun session for us to put together. I know Debbie, myself, and Rachel have had a fantastic time, and so we're really excited to finally get to share it with you guys today. We wanted to start with a safety moment, and considering what our topics are today, we're going to start with a safety moment about online safety, and I'm sure all of you know most of this already, but it's always good as a reminder to remember that, when you are posting stuff online, that it's out there forever, so be careful, right? People may disagree with your opinions. You may cause some tension that you didn't really mean to cause, but also be very careful with your personal information. Be careful with what you share as far as you don't want to share your address and phone number and location or say, hey, I'm going to be out of town for the next week, my whole family's gone, that kind of stuff. So just be very mindful about what you share, what you put out there, because once it's out there, it's out there. We've probably all seen the horror cases of the Pokemon Go and knowing exactly where you are, but just be careful with even your posts on, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, whatever that is. And then remember also that cyberbullying isn't just for your kids. So there are going to be people out there who are going to complain and leave comments, and try not to let it get to you, and just be mindful that what you're putting out there is out there forever, and that you never know who's on the other end receiving that. Okay, so our agenda for today, we're going to review what we did in What's Your Story Part 1, which was a webinar we did, I guess it's been a couple of months, maybe 3 months ago now, which was kind of an introduction to branding. And then Debbie Prickett will share with us the first section, which is a feedback on the Identify section of your workbook. And then I will walk you through the exercise of actually writing the elevator pitch on you, and also sharing that and getting some feedback with your peers there with you. And then Rachel will take us through our journey on social media profiles. And we won't just talk about your social media profiles today. We want you to actually log in, try creating a post, try updating your profile. But hopefully at the end of this 90-minute session that we have today, you will have done some of this stuff and not just talked about doing it, because I know we're all very busy, and we've carved out an hour and a half here together, so we want to make the most of this hour and a half and actually get some stuff actually done. And then we'll we'll end it with a section on nurturing your brand and how you can continue this development past this 90 minutes that we have today. If you have any questions today, please use the chat feature in the WebEx. We will be monitoring that separately from from the live feed that we have going. So use the chat window. Your facilitators also have my phone number if you need to text me. If you have issues you can't hear, or you have questions about some of the breakout sessions, feel free to get in touch with us. We will get right back to you and make sure that you're moving along in this process. So just a brief refresher from what we did in the previous webinar. We talked about, what is your personal brand? And your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? It's not necessarily just your reputation. It's how do you make people feel when they work with you? How do you want to be seen? What do you want to be known for? It's pretty much everything that is defined by you and your personality, whether that's personal or professional. And the reality that we face is that we all have a brand, whether we like it or not, whether we're managing it or not, whether we are the one setting the direction for where that goes or not, we all have a brand. And so what we want to talk about today is how you can focus on that brand and decide what it is that you really want to be known for, and then make it happen. So don't let the world create the brand of you. You want to take control of that and actually create that brand and make sure that you're going to be known for what you want to be known for and achieving your goals. So in the pre-work and the several emails that you got from us, I'm reminding you about the pre-work, you got a personal branding workbook. And so this workbook is not just a workbook for today's session. This workbook was created as a living document, something that you can revisit often. You can use it as a tool as your career focus changes throughout your career journey, as your goals change, as your skill sets change. This is something that you can go back and revisit and maybe go back through it several times, just to make sure that the brand that you're creating, the brand that you're working towards, is something that aligns with your personal goals. So think of this document as, we're going to use parts of it today as we go through this time together, but think of this document as a working document, a living document that you can keep either printed out in your desk, keep a version on your PC, but something that you'll go back and use as a continuous development tool. So some of the workbook was completed as pre-work. Some of it we'll cover today, and what we are hoping is that after this 90-minute session together, you'll have a good grasp of what it really means to go back through this workbook. Will spark some thoughts, and you can go back through and actually complete the entire thing from start to finish, and then continue to do that as you develop your brand. So I'm going to hand it over to Debbie now. She's going to take us through part 1. So if you haven't already done it, now is a good time to get your workbook out, look back at your pre-work, and be prepared to review what you've written in your pre-work already, and then refine that a bit more. So, Debbie, with that, I'll hand it off to you.
All right, thanks, Nikki. All right, folks, I hope when you heard the word pre-work, you didn't all faint. But as Nikki said, if you would please take a moment and pull up your laptops if you have your workbook online, or if you brought a printout, or if you brought any information with you, it's time to pull that out. If you did not do the pre-work, do not panic. It's going to be a little bit harder for you guys to keep up and get the most out of this workshop, but don't leave the room, don't log off. You can stay. You're still going to get a lot out of this. So let's get started, and Nikki's going to drive for me here. So we're in the first section of the workbook. The entire section of this workbook we ask you to do is pre-work, and we hope that you took 30 minutes or so to write down your initial thoughts and impressions in the sections that are in this workbook. Right now, we're going to jump right in, and we're just going to get started on the first couple of sections. We are going to go through now the knowledge section, the purpose section, and the who am I section. We are going to skip the emotional inventory section. So, and everybody's happy about that. Okay, so in the What's Your Story section, the key to this section is to find out who you are, why you do, what makes you tick, what makes you excited, energetic, the things that you really want to be known for, the areas that you want to enhance and have more opportunities to develop and promote, things that are effortless for you to actually do. So that's the key here, is to find out and document what motivates you, what do you want to be known for, what do you want to be recognized for. So if you please advance, we're going to just jump right in. We've got a 10-minute workshop for you here that we would like you to now get into groups of 2 or 3 in your room, 2s or 3s. And it is not necessary that you know each other. So if you are friends and already know a little bit about each other, when you go through this section, I encourage you to dive deeper and probe deeper into these conversations. If you do not know each other, that's still fine. And we ask that you just ask for more details. If you're sharing information, search for clarity, search for information that can help understand the person's documents here. Okay, so we are going to get started. I'd like you to spend about 5 minutes on the sharing of the knowledge inventory section, and then we're going to switch and spend about 5 minutes talking about the purpose section. Okay? Let's go ahead and switch over. In your rooms, your facilitators have likely distributed a handout that gives you some ideas about what we're looking for here. So the first part, highlighted in the red section here in the knowledge area, 5 minutes to talk amongst yourselves and to try to write down and review anything that you have written down, a list of things that come to mind of your personal knowledge skills inventory. And I'm going to be quiet now for about 5 minutes, then I'm going to talk again in about 5 minutes and encourage you to move on to the purpose section. Okay? 5 minutes. Okay, we're keeping a timer here in Austin. That was 5 minutes on our end, so hope that was interesting and kind of got the juices flowing. Here in the room, we also shared amongst ourselves, so we're excited and energized. That was a section talking about the knowledge, your skills, what you do well, what you want to be known for. We're going to skip over the emotional, how you feel, how you make other people feel, that sort of thing, and we're going to jump to the purpose section. In the purpose section, a couple of thought-provoking ideas here in the pre-work is, what do you do better than anybody else? If you received an award, what would it be for? So what is your purpose? What is your value that you contribute? And we're going to go 5 minutes on that to get back into your groups. and we'll let you go for 5 minutes. Thanks. Okay, so it's time to start wrapping up and get back to the individual work. So for those of you that are not in a room with a facilitator, this is the end of the work where we're going to be doing collaboration, and that's our timer to say it's time to move on. So from here on out, it's kind of individual work. So apologies to those who were not able to be in a room with a facilitator, but no worries, we're all in it together now. So let's move on to the last section in this getting started area, and that is, in this section, we're going to start to synthesize the results of all this inward exploration, your conversations. We're going to put together summary statements that are going to get you set up for the next exercise that Nikki's going to take you through. So in this 5 minutes, we want to get your feedback from your sessions, from your pre-work. Now do any quick adjustments to the work that you already had based on the outcomes of your sharing exercise. Don't get too hung up on the format in this section of writing what's your story. We're not looking for anything elegant. It doesn't have to be a flowing sentence. Grammar is not important. Just write down themes, make bulleted lists. Any format is okay. The key here is to find words that are very descriptive about what, who you are, why you do what you do. Find words that are very just descriptive, not generic. Think of using keywords that you might do in like a Google search on a particular topic of interest. So that's what we're talking about here when we say very descriptive. So now what we want you to do is go on to this last section, and you can do this by yourself or you can do it in groups. If you're in groups, maybe share the key descriptive themes. If you're on your own, just make sure that you get a summarized, synthesized group of things to describe you. From this, after this 5 minutes, Nikki will take over and we will continue to work on this information going forward throughout the rest of the workshop. Okay, so 5 minutes here, and then we are on to the next section, okay? Okay, that wraps up section 1, so everybody, time to be done. There goes the alarm again. Very good about not turning that off. So, okay, thank you for participating in wrapping up your pre-work, getting a little bit of the brain lube going as we move forward into the second section. I'm now going to turn over to Nikki Bishop, and she's going to take you through the creating your elevator pitch.
All right. Thanks, Debbie. So I know that was kind of the, we started off fast there of grab your pre-work and start reviewing and get the thoughts going. And as you reviewed it, you may have thought, well, I don't have enough action words, or I didn't have enough keywords, or maybe my purpose doesn't show my skill set. So we're hoping to take all of those questions you have floating around in your head right now of does this really align with where I'm going, what I want to be known for, and the brand that I'm trying to develop. And so those kinds of things are what we want to put into an elevator pitch. So I'm going to do one of the more uncomfortable things that I'm probably going to do in a while is I'm going to read the elevator pitch. I'm going to start off by reading the elevator pitch that I wrote for myself and share that with all of you. And then I will go back through and tell you quickly how we're going to build one for you today. And it is pretty easy, so don't panic. So I'm going to start with, my name is Nikki Bishop, and I make life easier for Emerson customers during their most stressful times, plant outages and turnarounds. I connect customers to automation solutions to reduce risk and stress during these complex events. I'm a passionate problem solver and dot connector. I help others achieve their best self through mentoring, friendship, and networking. I am always seeking new ideas and ways to positively impact the world around me, both personally and professionally. So it's a pretty simple statement. Hopefully you can see what I'm passionate about personally, what I do kind of work-wise, what I'm passionate about for Emerson customers. And it was fairly easy to construct this based on the pre-work that we did. So just some basic guidelines here on the elevator pitch. You want it to be less than 30 seconds. You want your skills to be clear on what it is that you do, and you want to include some goal or a purpose. Now, this isn't necessarily a pitch where you're looking for a new job, but you should have some goal or purpose. What do you want to learn? What do you want to be in? What do you want to inspire others? What opportunities are you looking for? So make sure that it includes a goal or a purpose. Now, your facilitators in the room should have the guidelines for you on the elevator pitch and the instructions. But what you want to do is go back through your purpose and your knowledge inventory and your who are you section, and we want you to write just 5 to 7 sentences about you. They can be completely unrelated. They don't have to flow together into a paragraph. Just do a brain dump of 5 to 7 sentences that describe you. And you should have most of this from the pre-work that you did. Just go back, put it in a sentence. So I'm going to set a timer now for 5 minutes, and then I will come back on, and then we're going to put all of it together into a paragraph, and we're going to share that with each other and see if the story flows and if the person that you share that with can understand what your skills are and what your goal and your purpose are. So I'm going to go on now. We're going to give you 5 minutes. Just write 5 to 7 sentences about you, and remember, they don't have to be connected. Doesn't have to be a beginning, middle, and end. Just 5 to 7 brain dump sentences on you. All right. See you in 5 minutes. All right, guys, we are back. I hope you had a chance to write some sentences there, because now we're going to take those sentences and organize those into a paragraph. And I know this sounds like we're going back to elementary school English here. Write some sentences, and now we're going to make a paragraph. But one of the hardest things to do is to write a paragraph on you, right? The hardest thing is to, share that with others and really write about yourself. So hopefully writing those 5 to 7 sentences was pretty straightforward from the pre-work. And so now we want you to put those together into a continuous paragraph. And you may find that you're going to cut out some of those sentences. I didn't use all the sentences that I had in my 5 to 7 sentences. But put it into a paragraph that you would be comfortable sharing with somebody when they say, what do you do? You meet them in an airport, you meet them at a trade show, wherever it is, something that you would be comfortable reading that explains who you are and what you're passionate about. So this one's going to take a little bit more time, so we're going to give you 10 minutes to work through this. If you are somewhere that you have another person there with you, we want you to write this paragraph and then share it and see if the person that you share it with really understands what it is you're passionate about, what you do, and if it really makes sense to them, right? It has a personal touch to it. They know where you're going, what you want to do. So take a few minutes, take your sentences, put them into a paragraph, and then share that with a partner. If you're not with somebody, call a friend, say, I just need 30 seconds. I'm going to read this and tell me what you get from it. So you'll really get the most benefit if you can share this with somebody live. So we've got a 10-minute breakout here. We're going to set a timer, and we'll be back with you in 10 minutes. Thanks. All right, guys, we are back. I hope that 10 minutes went well for you and you were able to share, write your elevator pitch and share it. I know we did here in the room. We're going through this with you today, just like you are. And one of the things we were talking about here is when you get that elevator pitch written, it's really nice to have it, stored in a note on your phone, stored on your PC, somewhere as kind of a cheat sheet on you when you know you're going to be in an environment where you're going to get asked a lot of, what do you do here? What do you do? Networking events, whether those are trade shows, conferences, industry conferences. Those of us who are heavily involved in Emerson Exchange must get this question 100 times in that week of what do you do? And I admit I kind of flounder about my words. So the elevator pitch that you just wrote, and don't worry if you didn't get it perfect. This is something you can refine. You at least have a start on it now. I think the worst thing is just having a blank page, but at least you have something on the page now. But think of this as kind of the cheat sheet on you. If you could put it on the back of your business card, this is what you would represent, what your business card represents, right? Your title is on there, where you work. But if somebody really wants to get to know you and what you do, what you stand for, and what you're passionate about, that's really where this elevator pitch comes in. So hopefully you had some time to do that. So we've looked at what's your purpose, what are you passionate about, what do you enjoy doing, and now we have it all pulled together into an elevator pitch. Hopefully some of those keywords are in there. So now it's time to put some of this into action in our social media profiles. So I'm going to turn it over to Rachel now, and she is going to take us on the social media journey. And Debbie and I are in this with you, so Rachel's our expert here. She's going to walk us through it. We are all on this journey together, and so with that, I will turn it over to Rachel.
Thank you, Nikki. You'll notice I actually changed the section here to say develop and market, because it's a little bit of both. We're all building our digital profiles together and learning how to market ourselves and also build our network. So with that, I'm going to kind of start with a food for thought slide about what it really means. You know, I'll just put this right here. So in an Emerson context, we did a survey of our customers a few years ago, and the data showed that our customers are 57% through the purchasing decision before they ever make contact with sales. So that means they are digitally researching our projects. More importantly, and I really want to say more than ever, they are researching our experts. We're in a very competitive market where people make very similar technologies. What makes us stand out is our expertise, and those folks are you. So it's really important that you connect the brand that you are conveying in person with your digital brand and make that findable to our potential customers online. On another note, 93% of hiring managers review candidates' social profiles before ever making contact. I won't read through these all, but this is a great one. The fourth is they're looking for more than just your resume. This really echoes everything we've talked about today about the brand. Recruiters, our customers, they are looking at your digital profiles to find out what your professional experience is. They're not looking for your resume. They want to know what mutual connections you share. So they understand, is this somebody that I can trust? They want to know specific examples of your previous work. What projects are you working on that are like theirs? How can they relate to you? Why are you a good fit for them? Also, we're going to talk about, just as we did with the branding exercise, people want to see that you are human, right? It's not just a list of your hard skills. It's great for you to include things about volunteering, philanthropy, topics that you're passionate about, so that they know that you are kind of a well-rounded individual. One of the key elements that I use in our social training is it's more important than ever that we humanize ourselves. You can do all of these things and have a great kind of skill set, list of professionalism, but at the end of the day, they want to know there's a person on the other side of that, and including information about what you do personally is very important. And lastly, it's not just LinkedIn, right? So people are also looking at Twitter, Facebook. If you are in Emerson Process Management, they very much look at the Emerson Exchange 365 community. They want to know, what you can be known for and research all of these things. So what's in it for you, right? It can seem like a daunting process, but it's extremely important. I love this quote. Social media is changing the way we communicate. It also changes the way we're perceived, both positively and negatively. Every time you post a photo or update your status, you're contributing to your own digital footprint and your personal brand. So part of these things we're giving ourselves a huge check mark on today, which you should feel great about. So the personal benefits of adopting social media to create your profile is that you are educating yourself, you are increasing your visibility, you're also enhancing your skills today, building relationships. Those of you that are in rooms where you're able to share your story, hopefully that this is a great moment for maybe you've met some people that you don't come into contact with every day. It could also lead to creating new opportunities. And most importantly, building up your social media, thought regimen of what you share can help you become recognized as a thought leader. Inevitably, you're going to probably think there's certainly a what's in it from Emerson, but this also behooves you, right? So it's very important in the last few years, and it will become more and more important that we really tout Emerson as a problem-solving company. Again, people make similar technologies. What makes us stand out? What makes us different than our competitors? It's really important that we are known for our people. That's going to keep us moving and innovating in this space. So by creating your digital profile and becoming visible, it helps Emerson to establish quality relationships with our customers, to really deepen customer engagement, and again, to position Emerson as a leading problem solver. I will say that these things also certainly, behoove you. We have thousands of examples. We keep a social media scorecard where we have anecdotes every month of customers that have found our experts using social media and developed relationships with them that have led to physical sales. And certainly, more importantly, just providing connections to people that may have not been there in a traditional model. So the social media landscape is vast and scary, but I will say that we have narrowed it down for you here in process, where we have 3 channels that we really want to focus on, specifically the top 2. We want you to concentrate on LinkedIn and Emerson Exchange 365. I'm going to talk very briefly about Emerson Exchange 365 in the next slide, as I was asked to explain what that is. I know all of you aren't necessarily in industrial or process, but you may have a similar platform that will be important for you to adopt. So Emerson Exchange 365 is our customer-facing community. We currently have over 18,000 users. It has grown over 340% in the last 2.5 years, primarily due to people finding the conversations that we have in there via Google, right? So it's about making your expertise findable. If you have an internal sales portal where you problem solve and come up with best practices, this is exactly what that is, but in a customer-facing way. It's more important than ever that we don't keep this knowledge to ourselves, but that we put it in a platform that is Googleable. That is what Emerson Exchange 365 is. It has the name that is reflective of the Emerson Exchange Conference, which is our annual event. It's a user-driven conference, much like the Emerson Exchange 365 community. It is not marketing or sales. It's value-based content. So it shares that name because it basically is a reflection of the activities that go on there, these very rich value-based content conversations, networking, learning. Your company may have something similar. I was informed today that Power and Water Solutions has their own community. So it's important that you combine a platform that is owned by your business, ours is Emerson Exchange 365, as well as activities in LinkedIn. Again, the activities that are in your community are Googleable. LinkedIn is extremely important because it's a broader industry audience. This also applies to Twitter. You're going to get more breadth. However, keep in mind that your activities in LinkedIn only live within LinkedIn. They are not Googleable. So if you are contributing to group discussions, which we absolutely want, if you're creating very rich posts that talk about your expertise, that is great. Just keep in mind that we're going to go to that if a tree falls in the woods. If I happen upon that because I'm a connection of yours in LinkedIn, fantastic. But if I'm on Google as a customer or prospective employer and I want to know, have you solved this problem? If you have used a community post or even Twitter to explain that, I will find it. If you have kind of insulated that knowledge within LinkedIn, I will not see that. So it's important that you use a combination of platforms to make yourselves visible. I have a slide here shows 2 profiles. The first on the top left is for Emerson Exchange 365. Again, I know that all of you are not necessarily in this process, so you'll certainly have the slides. The areas that we're going to focus on today are applicable across platforms. Twitter will certainly be an abbreviated version, but all of these are best practices that apply. You can complete your profile and focus on these areas in any facet. But the key is that you should use continuity and interlinking. That means you want to use the same photo. You want to use the same name. You want to have if not the same, a similar summary. And you want to provide links between the two. Again, this goes back to the information that you are building in LinkedIn isn't necessarily Googleable, but the information that you would put in an owned platform is. So within for example, your 365 profile, make sure that your LinkedIn, if you can look down here under Add Your Info, Make sure that you include your LinkedIn profile. There's also a space where you can include your Twitter. Similarly, and we'll go over this in the next slide, in the contact info section, where that little arrow is on LinkedIn, you want to include information about Emerson Exchange 365, should you be using that. Where can they find out more about the problem solving you're doing? So create links between the platforms to create that really great Google juice and become findable. And you'll see this in the next slide, but rule number one here in red is that when you start editing your profiles, you don't have to worry about it in 365, but in LinkedIn, you have a queue where Nikki is graciously pointing here that says notify your personal network. You want to slide that button to no, and 99% of the time, leave it there. Not everybody needs to know that you worked at Wings and Things when you were, 17 years old, nor do they need to know what your role is now. And I say that specifically because it can be very confusing. If you leave that active, it tells people in your network that you're updating your profile. So it can be confusing if you've changed titles. People will often say, congrats on your new job. It could also appear that you're looking for a job when you may not be. So always keep this button on no. With that, if you can pull up a window on your LinkedIn, we are going to, step by step, take some of the information that we have done within the branding section, and we're going to actually complete your profiles. And our goal, again, is hoping that you can walk out of here with something concrete. You can certainly polish it afterwards. So Natalie has graciously allowed me to pick on her today as an example. If you saw in the previous slide, there was a couple things that I would suggest. Again, make sure that you're using the same photo between platforms, right? You don't want to use one that's more personal and a professional headshot on another. In an ideal world, you always want to use a photo that shows majority of your face. There's no other people in it. There is a plain background. It doesn't matter if you've had a professional photo shoot. Have a friend take a picture of you against a colorful wall background, a solid background or something. So with that, we will start with number one. Miss Natalie can see this later and realize that she needs to change her settings where it says notify your network. You want to slide that to no, right? While you're updating this, you want to make sure that is kept at no. And as a note, this does not affect your network in that if you are creating posts, your network will still see that. All this means is that when you update your profile, your connections will not be notified. So it's perfectly acceptable to leave that at no all the time. If tomorrow Natalie made president of Emerson, she may want to slide that to yes so she can show folks, right? But otherwise, keep that at no. So after you have done that, we're going to walk through the two most important parts, and they're not necessarily numbered accordingly, but of LinkedIn. How do you optimize your search within LinkedIn? That is, how do you become findable for people looking for you in LinkedIn? The number one way to do that is where it says number two, where I'm pointing, where you see here, PAS engineer. That is called your profile title. If you do not edit it, it will automatically populate with your current title of your current job. We at Emerson are very good about thinking that everyone in the world knows what our title means. However, it doesn't necessarily, and specifically across the businesses we see, many of us share the same title but do completely different things. So number one search goodness, if you will, in LinkedIn is your profile title. What this should be is 6 to 8 words of what you actually do. This kind of goes back to the what do you want to be known for? If somebody were to Google you, what words would you want them to put in? This could be a combination of a little bit of soft skills and hard skills. As an example, my title is Social Media Community Manager. However, my profile title says Community Manager and Strategist, Social Media Coach. So I really want to be known for social media coaching. It has become a greater part of my job. It's what I enjoy. It's not part of my title. I will tell you, since I changed that about 4 months ago, my search results have gone up exponentially, right? So you want to make sure that this shows exactly what you do. It is not a title, but it's what you do, what you want to be known for. There's certainly a character limitation, so, keep it at 6 or 8 words or less. Number 3, personalize your LinkedIn URL. This is extremely important. If you have not to date, when you registered for LinkedIn, it will generate a lengthy URL that says something like you're seeing here, right? Natalie Dominsk /XYZ740, blah, blah, blah. So it assigns you a number. You are then attached to that number. So if somebody were to search for you as Natalie Nemesnik, you may appear amongst the many others. You want to edit that to narrow it down to the closest form of URL that's available with only your name. If you click, and I'm sorry you can't see it here, but to the right of where the arrow is to number 3, there is a cog, or a wheel, whatever you want to say, that will allow you to change your settings. If you click that, a window will appear to the right, kind of where Natalie's underneath this profile strength area. And it will it will show you your options. You want to hit personalize. It will pop up what the closest version of that is. Just simply highlight all of the areas where the numbers and letters are and delete that. And at that point, it will tell you, is LinkedIn.com Ben Bishop available? If not, it may suggest Ben Bishop 4. You probably want to do Ben Z Bishop or something as close to your name as you can. So you want to personalize that URL. Once you have done that, make yourself a note that you want to go back and update every instance where you use that. For example, we talked about interlinking in Emerson Exchange 365. In Twitter, you also will want to provide your LinkedIn profile. Make sure that you use that personalized URL. If you are using it in an email signature, on a business card, again, you want to use the personalized URL.
Hey, Rachelle, this is Barbara Absher.
Yes.
Could you say again where we go to click? I mean, I've clicked on the cog, but regarding the public profile URL, I can click on an edit for that, but it doesn't come up with any sort of any recommendations. So were you saying that that's what would happen?
So if you click edit, correct. Mm-hmm. Barbara, do you see then in the right column where it says your public profile URL? It should automatically generate that. And then there's a pencil. If you click that, okay, then it should pull up the full thing in an editable fashion. Right? Okay. Okay. So if you delete, like just highlight and delete those numbers that appear automatically is what I suggest. And so it's just your name. Hit save. Okay. And that will show you if that is available.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. I struggle with how much I can put on a stagnant slide. Usually I'm able to walk around and show everybody on their screen. So if you have questions like that, feel free to ask or put it in the chat. That's a great one, which probably others had. So I'm happy to dig into the details. Thanks, Barbara.
Well, I did have one more question. So my name in Twitter includes my maiden name, but if people just searched for my first and last name, would they still find me on Twitter?
Twitter or LinkedIn?
I mean, excuse me, on LinkedIn.
The best way to find out is to create an anonymous I guess it's called anonymous search window. Do you know how to do that? For example, if you're in Google, if you use Google Chrome, you can create, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Well, I can take that offline with you.
Okay. Well, that's a good question, though. Basically, what I'm suggesting is to search yourself. When you search yourself, you should always try to do an incognito window. That's what it's called. You should use an incognito browser. That way you're getting relevant results. If you are not an incognito browser, it's going to generate that stuff from your history. So you really won't see what the public sees.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Another good question. So the second most Googleable field within LinkedIn is your summary, number 4. This should be a combination of that great elevator pitch that you wrote. And as a matter of fact, I highly encourage you to literally cut and paste that. We had a great question in the room here today. Always make sure that's first person. Don't refer to yourself as Joe enjoys blah, 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 right? Again, keep in mind that statement that I made, humanize yourself, right? So this should be a succinct mix of what it is that makes you unique professionally, personality-wise, etc. After you have cut and paste that, food for thought is you want to add to that your searchable skills. So this can be for example, mine is in list form with commas. It can also be a short bulleted list. When we say searchable skills, this goes back to the comments that Debbie made about, what do you want to be known for? If I did not know you and I was looking for a vendor or if I was looking for an employee, if you will, either way, what would I Google to find somebody with that expertise? And you want to make sure that those skills and those exact keywords are in your summary, right? So whether it is strategic pricing, whether it is mechanical engineering, social media coaching, right? So everyone is coming from a different background here, but we certainly want to make sure that those are searchable skills. Great tip here. If you don't know what those are, start searching yourself within LinkedIn. Who do you want to be? Right? Who, in 5 years, in 2 years, what position do you want? Start doing a search and see what profiles come up. Are those the keywords you want to be known for? Include those, right? There is absolutely nothing wrong with doing your due diligence and looking for the ways people have phrased things. Certainly when you see things like profile all-stars, those are great ones to mimic, right? So we have 15 minutes to do this section. I think I will probably leave at least 3 or 4 minutes for you guys to go through this and maybe ask questions in the chat box, and or if you're on your home line, open it up, and we'll just kind of gauge the time on that. So feel free to ask questions in this section. Is there a point person that we should ask about content? This falls into, there's different terms of thought. In being the leaders of social media, we are not here to monitor your activities. I think everybody should use their best judgment. This is, both of the platforms that we've mentioned today, as well as Twitter, is a professional site. You want to realize that once you are within LinkedIn, within 365, within Twitter, you need to make your association with Emerson and realize that you are representing Emerson. It is perfectly acceptable to keep a separate account for your personal photos. For example, I do not have my Facebook account connected to Emerson. I utilize Facebook for social media purposes, but Emerson doesn't follow me, I don't follow them. That's where I put my vacation photos, right? You should keep these professional and realize that they will be seen by a vast audience. Keep in mind those social media tips that we talked about in the beginning, right? Once you put it out there, it is searchable. So, please utilize your best judgment and realize that this is your professional brand. Are the Emerson Businesses divisions going to be updated in LinkedIn? That is a very likely occurrence. We will know more as the One Emerson initiative moves along. We are starting with the Emerson website, and it will trickle down from there. So for now, I would say continue to act as is. If you're using the industrial automation, for example, page to create social posts, continue to do so, but maybe concentrate more. Might be a good exercise in that maybe it's, concentrate on your personal brand and what you're putting out. That way it's applicable to all of Emerson when we do become that one Emerson company. Any other questions? These are great questions, so. If not, I think we will move on. We have a few more slides I want to bounce through here. So build your network. This is the next step. Once you have gotten your profiles polished and the way you want them, you want to build your network. Extremely important. If a tree falls in the woods, right, you might have the best LinkedIn profile, the best Emerson Exchange profile. You may be posting up a storm and following all of the rules, but if you have no one in your network, then no one is there to hear that. So it's important that you kind of step accordingly. So you start by creating your profile and polishing that up, and you continue that with building your network. You can see here, I've shown you a quick and easy way to do that. If you choose My Network, in their LinkedIn, on the top navigation bar, there is a section called Connections. Simply by filling out your profile, you put words like Emerson, Appleton, engineering, things of process automation in there. LinkedIn will automatically generate a list of folks that it thinks that you may want to connect with. So that's a great place to start. Extremely important, invite those people with a personal message. If someone sits next to you in your cube and you talk to them every single day, that is the only excuse where it's okay to hit connect. Otherwise, you want to send a personal message. It's not difficult or time-consuming. You can simply say, I appreciated the information you shared on the brand webinar today. Let's connect on LinkedIn, right? Just create a short statement about how you know that person. And by know, that doesn't mean that you need to personally know them. You can potentially ask to connect to a thought leader and say, I read a white paper that you shared. I liked this tidbit about X. Let's connect on LinkedIn. Make sure that you personalize those messages. You want to follow thought leaders, customers, industry publications. Keep in mind what you want to share at this juncture, right? So this should be a good mix of professional as well as your passions and values, right? So we're going to see in the next slide what the formula is for sharing. So here's an example. I might follow Bill Gates, Deepak Chopra, Exxon, Citgo, ARC Advisory Group, right? So you want a good combination of what your passions and your professional shares will be there. And lastly, you're going to join groups and start offering value in conversation. So very important rule of thumb, give before take when you are in professional groups. We do not moderate those. They have individual moderators that are not associated with Emerson, and they can easily remove you from the group at any time. So, for example, if I want to, I know a lot about the ARC, and I'm going to sound like a non-engineer here, but I know a lot about the ARC Rule 8.7 that came out this year. I want to get in that group, start looking at conversations, like them, contribute where I can, be known as a giver before I come out and say, hey, look at me, I published this paper. Here's a great resource. So always give before taking, specifically in groups. So this is the rules of social sharing. Very important here, and I'm going to try to wrap this up pretty quick. Use social sharing tools. They are there for a reason. When you see these buttons within Emerson Exchange 365, within LinkedIn, it gives you options to share LinkedIn posts on Twitter, share Emerson Exchange 365 posts on LinkedIn and Twitter. You can do this in one fell swoop. You want to make sure that you edit the information. Don't just send, edit the information accordingly, and I'm showing you how to do so here, so that those rich keywords are in the title and in that description, right? Make sure that the topic that you want them to search is listed specifically in the title. Quick rule of thumb, we won't talk about Twitter here. I usually cut and paste my subject line from LinkedIn straight into Twitter because I've already made it keyword rich, and add tags. So the social sharing rule, the goals here are to build trust and be consistent, right? So this is kind of a new ratio graphic that I found, but it's very applicable. And by 5-3-2, it does not mean 5 posts, 3 posts, 2 posts, but it's just an overall ratio over time. So you want to make sure that you're sharing the most content from others. That means non-Emerson content. That could be thought leaders, that can be customers, sharing posts from others that do not refer to Emerson. The second map should be Emerson content. This should be sharing from your colleagues for the most part. This isn't you talking about yourself and what you've done for Emerson, but primarily some of the work or thoughts from your colleagues. It's okay to trickle in a few things about yourself there, but use it lightly. And lastly, should be personal. Again, you want to make sure that your brand includes what your passions, your interests, and values are. You want to become a well-rounded individual. Your brand should be a combination of those activities. This is a great example of a LinkedIn post. I don't think that we will have a chance to do a post together today, but you will see one from our group that talks about the activities that we've done. But here's a great example of a very quick but well-crafted post. Here, one of our social experts has taken a topic that's not even related to Emerson, right? How to present like a keynote speaker, right? So he's sharing a resource about presentation skills. And he then has said, this is great. It's a great resource because also we're gearing up for Emerson Exchange. He's used a hashtag for Emerson Exchange. So he's made it relevant to an audience that he wants, but he has shared a resource that is completely unrelated to Emerson. So that is a very quick, well-crafted post. How to create the E365 post. This will be in here as a resource.
So action items from today's training in social media. I would like everyone to start with opening an incognito or anonymous browser window. It's called different things depending on what browser you use. And Google yourself. It's certainly important that you use an incognito window. If you're using the browser that you use on a daily basis or you are otherwise logged into an account, it will show you results for your name at the top of the list. However, these results do not appear as such to the rest of the world. So you really want to get a clear picture of how you appear in Google results to those who might be Googling you, other than yourself. So once you have done so, ask yourself these questions. Do you appear above the fold in search results? And by above the fold, I mean both your name. Are there paragraphs related to you and your expertise? You may also see some photos. Some of those may be of you, some may be of others. Secondly, are you identified in those areas for your current expertise and interests? Are there things attached to your name what you want to be known for in the professional realm? And lastly, are your keywords appearing in these search results? Are those really solid terms that you want to be attached to your name? Are those in that kind of very short, truncated amount of text so people know what your expertise is and what your passions are? Those are really the type of things that you want to be associated with your name and your brand. And Google does a great job of helping you kind of build that momentum by consistently starting to create a series of posts, making sure that your profiles are up to date, and just continually doing so, you'll definitely build up that Google juice wherein you can ensure that these things are attached to your name. So after you've done so, I'm going to assume, because this certainly happened to me, and at times if I'm not as active as I want to be, I'll drop down a little bit. So when this happens, you want to take time to invest in your digital brand. So ensure that you complete or polish your profiles. Again, we talked about this before, and I think Nikki will touch on it at the end. It's important that you revisit these and refresh them. Once a quarter, maybe at least twice a year. Make sure you're appearing in the top of those Google results. Secondly, start connecting to and following others to create a network. As we mentioned in a previous slide, if a tree falls in the forest, that type of analogy is certainly applicable here. You want to make sure that you have a network with whom to speak to when you start posting. And lastly, here's a little kind of cheat sheet, a starting point of a consistent social posting schedule. It's really important, again, that you be consistent. So start with 2 to 3 LinkedIn status posts a week, 2 posts to your business's community or blog per month. Those who work for Emerson certainly can reference Emerson Exchange 365. Others viewing this training might have their own business community or blog. And lastly, 2 to 3 tweets per week. Again, I will mention that there is 7 to 8 slides at the end of this presentation that we won't cover today, but that will give you a great starting point and base in building your profile in Twitter, setting up your account, and getting jump-started on the road to Twitter. So thank you so much.
There are she has some slides in here for Twitter that we didn't quite get to today, but you'll have the deck so you can go back and look at those. Some great guidelines there too, creating a tweet, what that means. Okay, so we've come now to the end here. I know we're really close on time. We have just a few more minutes together, but just wanted to reiterate that your branding journey doesn't stop with creating your profile, with creating your elevator pitch, with even understanding what your goals and aspirations are. It's something that you have to foster, to nurture, and really invest in you, whether that's taking 5 minutes a day that you put on your Outlook calendar, if it would even let you put 5 minutes in there, but taking 5 minutes to focus on you. You know, what are you doing today that's contributing to your brand? You know, are there things that you could be doing? Just the time to reflect. But, you know, bottom line, you have to take the time to focus on you, which is one of the hardest things for all of us to do with all the demands that we have on our time, both professionally and personally. But your brand is important, and you are certainly worth investing that time in. So there's some simple ways that you can nurture your brand. You don't have to go through a 90-minute workbook every morning. We're certainly not suggesting that, but just simple things that you can do that will really help, you know, strengthen and nurture your brand. And I'm not going to read all 10 of these to you, but the first one is tell your boss what's going on well. Don't expect them to know. I mean, it's, you know, tell them what you're doing and what's going right. You know, set up that open line of communication, because you can't expect them to know everything that's going on. And that's a great way to promote, you know, the good things that you're doing, the things that you're proud of, the things that really are contributing towards your goals that you've set. Simple stuff like show thanks. Say thank you to those people who are around you. I'm going to voice something I had this morning on the way over here to this meeting room. I said good morning to 3 people and only 1 person spoke to me. So, you know, if somebody speaks to you and smiles at you, just smile back. Say something, right? Acknowledge that they've spoken to you. That's a really, really minor thing that you can do that really helps with your brand. Be helpful. Give praise. You know, if you think something nice about somebody, you think they did a great job, say something, right? Don't just hold your comments for the negative stuff. If you think something, say it. Somebody probably would be glad to hear it. And then number 8, dress the part. Oh, you'd like to think that appearances don't matter, but they do. You know, dress for the job that you want, not necessarily the job that you have, and just be professional. Business casual means something different, I think, to some people. So just be careful and make sure that you're outwardly showing the brand that you want to be known for, because you can be the most fantastic, you know, whatever role it is you want to be, and people don't see you that way because appearances, you know, really do matter. They do make that impression. So the last one we have here is remember that kindness matters, right? I love this quote. So people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And so part of your brand is how people feel when they work with you. Do they want to work with you? Or do they feel empowered? And so don't take this lightly, right? I know we all get very busy in our craziness of Outlook calendars and running from meeting to meeting and doing so much, but don't take it lightly that, you know, kindness goes a long way, whether that's in your LinkedIn profile. I mean, we talked about cyber bullies, you know, be kind in your comments on your LinkedIn profile, but be kind in your everyday interactions with people, and you'd be surprised how far that goes. So just as a reminder here, before we close, you have the workbook, which is a living document. You've got the 4 sections there, but it doesn't stop here. You know, this is something that you need to focus on. Use the workbook as a tool. Go back and revisit it. Take what we've learned today. You know, maybe spend 30 minutes at lunch once a quarter, right? Just pull some time out to go back and look at it. And is this really what you want to be known for? And this is really the brand that you're portraying to the world. And it might mean you need to ask some friends, find a friend who'll, you know, give you some be honest with you. Is that the brand that you're known for? But it's a journey. We're on this journey with you too. You know, we had a fantastic time putting together this workbook, going through the process ourselves, and you have resources. If you have questions, you want some coaching, you want to go through this a little bit more, feel free to contact us, and we'll be happy to work through it with you. We can't promise we have all the answers, but we will be happy to work through it with you. So with that, if you do have any more additional questions, feel free to email those to us, any kind of discussion. I also sent my number out there. If you want to text me questions, I'm happy to take them that way too. We'll get back to you and get those answered. So I hope you've enjoyed the session. Hope this at least made you think, and now you have that elevator pitch that when someone asks you, what do you do here, you won't panic. You'll have a few sentences that you can respond. So thanks to everybody who joined us today. We really appreciate your time.